Hi there. You're now tuned in to the midweek edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry, your host for today's show. We've got a well-rounded lineup, specially packaged just for you. So be sure to stick around for the entire program. We'll be right back after the news.
Good day, I'm Lisa Rowe and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, July 16, 2025. Business and consumer confidence in the country's economic trajectory continues to rise. The Jamaica Chamber of Commerce revealed yesterday that the latest survey results show that the indices for both recorded modest growth for the second quarter of 2025, maintaining the upward trajectory evident in late 2024. Consumer confidence reached a record high of 186.3, while the index of business confidence edged upwards by 2.2% to 134.7. 626 consumers and 102 businesses nationwide were surveyed from April to June of this year by Market Research Services Limited. According to Executive Chairman Don Anderson, the sustained growth in consumer confidence is primarily driven by stronger expectations for business conditions and personal income.
Consumers feel that current business is better than it was in quarter one. Current business environment is better. And that is evidenced by the fact that the consumer confidence at this level was 2 percentage points more than it was in quarter one. There's also a slight increase in expectations that business will continue to get better. Consumers are also beginning to believe that more jobs will become available.
The modest increase in business confidence, meanwhile, reflects slight improvements in key indicators such as the current rate of return on capital invested, firm income, and overall economic conditions. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is standing by his administration's decision to implement a rural school bus system, describing it as transformational. The Prime Minister says the buses will not only ensure a safer and more comfortable environment for students, but also promote discipline and positive values.
It's one thing to talk about the economics. It's another thing to talk about the defense of the mores of the society, the morality and values that are constantly under assault with our children in public passenger transport. That is invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
It is for this reason the Prime Minister is urging the public to support the program. He asserts that the concept of a dedicated school bus program is not new, as modern countries often implement separate transportation systems for students.
They understand the challenges that children would face if they have to compete in public transportation. So they have a parallel but separate transportation system that is more attuned to schools and the maintenance of discipline.
Dr. Holness was speaking during the recent launch of the Pedro Plains Irrigation Expansion Project in St. Elizabeth. The rural school bus program is being implemented by the Ministry of Transport in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. The rollout of Phase 1 is on track for the new school term in September, with a target of 110 buses. The units will service 100 routes across 258 rural schools, benefiting approximately 328,000 students. Jamaica now has an updated national population and sustainable development policy geared at addressing demographic and population shifts and emerging issues. The new policy was launched on World Population Day alongside the 2025 UNFPA State of the World Population Report. It seeks to create an enabling environment for sustainable population development, outlining 12 strategic goals with a program of action for implementation across government and non-government sectors. Key interventions include support for families that wish to have children but face economic or social barriers, improving access to affordable childcare, and expanding maternity and paternity leave.
We are now trying to facilitate in our health system, but also across government, child care centers within large clusters of the work environment. So many of our hospitals now actually have a nursery for workers, where your child can be taken care of while you work during the course of the day. And we are also now trying to integrate more things like housing accommodation.
The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, is reminding parents and guardians not to leave their children unsupervised, especially during the summer break. Director of Children and Family Programs, Dr. Warren Thompson, gave the advice during a recent JIS Get the Facts program, pointing out that anyone under the age of 18 is considered a minor under the law. Dr. Thompson stresses that it's also a dangerous practice to leave young children in the care of their older siblings.
Sometimes the older children are taking care of the younger children. And then when that happens, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So we find situations with children who are drinking, bleach or substances that they shouldn't drink. Children attempting to cook and have accidents.
He also warns that there are legal implications for the abuse, neglect, or lack of supervision of children.
Section 9 of the Child Care and Protection Act speaks to, the abuse, neglect, or the lack of supervision of a child, right? So if something should happen when a person under 18 is left unsupervised, then it could be that the parent could be charged for neglect.
Members of the public can report suspected cases of child abuse or neglect by calling the emergency hotline 211 or WhatsApp 876-878-2882. 25 young people stepped into the future of farming through an interactive two-day agriculture workshop designed to revolutionize how youth see the sector. The New Era Agriculture Workshop, held in Falmouth recently, was staged through a partnership between the Jamaica 4-H clubs and dancehall star Alkaline. The initiative fused culture and innovation, exposing participants to practical training, agri-entrepreneurship strategies, and a pitch competition geared towards real-world solutions. Director of Field Services at 4-H, Garfield Hewitt, says the workshop was carefully crafted to equip young people with the tools for success in a sector that's vital to both personal and national growth.
The truth is, agriculture plays a very important role in the development of our country. It plays an important role in our personal development, but it also contributes to the development of the country.
Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining Floyd Green has hailed the initiative as a critical step in reshaping national attitudes.
This is about giving youth new ways to look at agriculture as we embark on what we call a new era of agriculture. There are some professions that no matter what happens in the world, they will always be there, right? No matter how much AI get developed, there are some professions that will survive any form of technology. One of those professions happen to be agriculture, because no matter what you do, you have to eat.
And finally, the Logos Hope ship is set to return to Jamaica this summer, docking in Kingston from July 19 to August 19 and in Montego Bay from August 22 to September 14. The visit continues a long-standing tradition, marking more than 15 stops by Logos Hope and its sister ships Logos, Logos 2 and Doulos. Operated by the international charity GBA ships, Logos Hope will be crewed by 350 volunteers from 65 nationalities, including the captain. Project coordinator Emma Smithdorf says the vessel is dedicated to sharing knowledge, help, and hope.
All the work is done by the volunteers, and they have dedicated their 3 months or 1 or 2 years of their lives to work on board. They are mostly young people. Some are coming as a professional, they have skills, but some are coming just to offer what they have for wherever they are needed to work. Logos Hope is about books, ship, and people.
The ship features a floating book fair with over 5,000 titles, including atlases, dictionaries, educational resources, business literature, and faith-based books. The books will be available at discounted prices.
Education is very important. That's one of the things that I could say. So as we come, we wanted to contribute into the education as well, to make sure that people, they find the different books collection that they're looking for, which they can, for them to carry on their vision or their purpose that they're looking.
In Kingston, Logos Hope will be open from Tuesday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and on Sundays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Opening hours for Montego Bay will be announced closer to the docking date. Admission is $500 Jamaican per person, with free entry for children under 12 and seniors over 65. For more information, visit the official Logos Hope website at gbaships.org. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lisa Rowe. Thanks for watching.
Living in a systematic adjudication area, it's time to secure what's yours. The National Land Agency is distributing titles under its systematic land registration program. Persons in St. Elizabeth and Manchester, visit the Junction Guest House in St. Elizabeth to collect your title. In St. Catherine, we're coming to you house to house. To collect your title, bring your government-issued photo ID. If someone is collecting on your behalf, they should bring a JP certified letter and their government-issued photo ID. For more information, call 876-750-5263 or visit nla.gov.jm. One agency, one goal, committed to serve you better.
The Department of Correctional Services in Jamaica focuses on equipping incarcerated individuals with education, vocational training, and life skills to support their successful return to society. This next feature has more details.
The Department of Correctional Services DCS was formed in 1975 and plays a pivotal role in monitoring persons on parole and those serving custodial and non-custodial sentences. Their mission is to see to the security, rehabilitation, and reintegration of offenders as productive and law-abiding citizens.
The institution tries to mirror society in general as best as possible so that on the release of an inmate, the reintegration will be as seamless as is possible. Our first interaction with inmates are when the courts send them to us. In general, the courts send 3 different categories of inmates: convicted, awaiting trial, and those that have been convicted and have appealed their sentences. In regards to the convicted persons, we hold inmates start ranging from 30 days to multiple life sentences. When they are admitted, first thing we categorize them in those 3 categories. Then we go to security, whether they are of a high security, which if they escape would pose a danger to the society and to the public in general. Then we have just regular inmates who cannot be held in low security but has to stay in one of the maximums. We also have inmates who can be classified and sent to the medium securities, which are the farm institutions, Tamarind Farm and Richmond Farm. They concentrate on farming, but they still do other rehab activities.
Meanwhile, female inmates are held at the South Camp Adult Correctional Facility, where they serve the same range of sentences in the 3 categories. Females who will soon give birth are also held at that facility and have a nursery available to them.
After 6 months, a report is done on a family member or a friend who could be a guardian of that child, and if the report come back as those people being suitable guardians, the child is handed over to them. If there is no suitable guardian, the child will be placed in a children's home, and at the release of the mother, they can be reunited. If the mother is to be released in a short period, say up to when the child is 1 year old, the child will be allowed to stay with the mother.
Rehabilitation in our care is under the arms of many branches, which would comprise the probation arm, the chaplaincy, the rehab industry, and the rehab branch. Within the rehabilitation branch, we have teachers at all levels. It's mandatory for the children to go to school and to be in vocational areas, as well as to be exposed to sports and chaplaincy. We also engage them in sessions with our case managers.
In addition, there are trained custodial officers who help with not only security, but also operate as social workers.
This is the initial part in terms of doing rehabilitation, where we have to assess where our inmates are, not just on the custodial side to see how severe of a crime or if they are high risk, but we also look at where they are in their biopsychosocial, so we can know whether or not they are high, low, or medium risk.
The Department of Correctional Services also provides a myriad of academic opportunities for inmates at the CSEC and CAPE levels.
So we offer more than 13 areas when it comes on to CSEC, and when it comes on to the CAPE exam, we offer 2. Some of the offerings that we have at the CSEC level, we have principles of accounts, we have principles of business, maths, English, social studies, history, to name a few. At the CAPE, we only offer now mathematics and economics.
The department also offers vocational courses that extend beyond the theoretical aspects.
We have vocational areas such as barbering, and this is at both the adult and the juvenile level. We also have welding. We have projects where we do masonry, plumbing, painting, and of course, most of our maintenance are done not just by officers within the institution, but inmates as well.
An infirmary is also available to inmates who have difficulty taking care of themselves. Professionals who work in the regular infirmary assist them in their day-to-day activities.
We also have family days where inmates are allowed to interact with their children twice annually, where fathers and mothers, in the case of South Camp, are allowed to sit with their children, interact closely for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, because these events are a big deal for the children to see their parents. We also have a system where inmates are granted parole. There are a number of reports that goes into the parole. We have the report from the institution, which is done by the superintendent. There is the police report, and there is the community report. All of those are viewed by the parole board, and then a decision is made whether or not that person will be granted parole.
Oftentimes, person would hear the sad story, but it's time for us to look at the success, look at the positive, to see that our inmates and our wards in our care, they are doing exceptionally well. They want to make a change, and we're asking that society will also buy into that to allow them to have a smooth reintegration. Oftentimes, there is a stigma attached, but we ask that persons will give them that sense of hope to say anybody can change. The fact that they are making strides within, we hope that society can forgive and to have an open arm so they can execute that which we have taught them, that which they have engaged themselves in. We hope that society can help as well, that we can meet that vision for 2030.
Safeguarding bees. Our next feature highlights essential practices to protect bee colonies during the hurricane and rainy seasons, ensuring their survival and continued role in pollination and food security.
I love the pit, pit, patter of the raindrops. I love the buzz, buzz, buzzing of the bees. But the thing I love the best is to know that we are protecting these pollinating giants. The lines might not go exactly as I said them, but as we learn from nursery rhymes, bees have a buzz, and it's essential for providing us with food. In Jamaica, beekeeping has blossomed into a vital industry with over 4,000 Jamaicans now engaged in this sweet enterprise. Far beyond just a profession, it stands as a cornerstone of environmental stewardship and food security. Yet, this rewarding and sustainable practice faces significant risks, particularly in regions prone to natural disasters like hurricanes. As we know, hurricanes bring with them a host of destructive elements: high winds, heavy rainfall, flooding, power outages, and landslides, all of which can pose severe threats to bee colonies. Beekeepers are advised to use ratchet straps or heavy-duty hive straps to secure hives to their stands. These straps should be tight and cover all parts of the hive to ensure it remains intact during the storm's winds. To help farmers prepare for hurricanes, the apiculture unit under the Ministry of Agriculture would issue an alert 10 days in advance. This alert normally advises farmers to secure their bee colonies by strapping them down, clearing excess vegetation around trees, removing any extended limbs, and ensuring that their apiaries are not located in flood-prone areas. And if the hives are located in a flood-prone area, it is best to move it to a safer location. If relocation isn't possible, beekeepers should elevate the hive stands with bricks or cinder blocks to keep them above floodwaters. Duct tape or another strong adhesive can be used to seal the seams between hive boxes, preventing water from entering. If possible, covering hives with a heavy-duty tarp provides additional protection, but care must be taken to ensure adequate ventilation. Another thing, minimizing the size of hive entrances helps prevent excessive wind from entering, which can stress the bees and disrupt their ability to maintain temperature control. Lastly, beekeepers are encouraged to have a plan for feeding their bees in the event of extended power outages. Ensure you have an adequate supply of sugar syrup or other supplementals for feeding. As the nursery rhyme reminds us, bees buzz for a reason. Their work is essential to our environment and food supply. By taking these precautions, beekeepers can help ensure that even in the face of a hurricane, Jamaica's beekeeping industry will continue to thrive.
The past has shaped us, but the future, it's powered by connection. For 20 years, the Universal Service Fund has been bridging the digital divide, with over 400 public Wi-Fi hotspots lighting up verandas, homes, and hopes. From classrooms to communities, USF powers access to opportunity, helping youth dream bigger, learn smarter, earn online, and helping families stay close even from far away. One mission, 2 decades, thousands of lives transformed. Connected at 20, committed for a lifetime. The Universal Service Fund, connecting you to more.
From struggling to land a job after graduating university, Onari Cohen turned adversity into opportunity by launching his own business, Kingston Woodworks.
I always liked building stuff from a younger child. What happened now is that I left university and I couldn't find a job, so the best thing I know how to do was to create things.
That's how it started, a love for building and the determination to craft his reality. And with that, Kingston Woodworks was born. Onari has turned a passion for building into a business that's leaving its mark quite literally too on the community.
So I created an Instagram page called Onari Creates and started making cutting boards to just showcase my work. And then someone saw it and asked me if I could build an entertainment center for them. I took on the job knowing that I do have an experience then. That was my first project. That was, let's see, 9 months after making my first cutting board.
From simple cutting boards to custom-built entertainment centers, Onari turned his front lawn into a makeshift workshop. But the road wasn't without its challenges.
The biggest challenge was the space to work. I used my front lawn to do most of my work. And then another challenge I faced was tools. I was limited to my creation because I didn't have all the tools needed to create the creations I had in my mind. So little by little I saved up some money and then I bought some sanders and drills to create my products.
As his business grew, so did the demand, and with it came new hurdles and a push to find solutions.
So that's a tricky one because the more you grow, the more people come to you now. It's kind of hard to manage your time. But what I do is to outsource my work and make sure that they are keeping up to standard to my standard. So I create the products and then I have somebody that does the finishing for me.
Onari's work is now not only functional, but also part of the community landscape.
I want to say the piece that I'm working on currently is a Cherry Garden sign. If you're driving Cherry Garden right now, you see a welcome to Cherry Garden. I am proud of that because that is the most seen project I've worked on.
As his reputation grows, so does his ambition.
I want to be the #1 woodworker when it comes to customized work. So anything you think of, you can't get online, or you just want a proper product, I want you to think of Kingston Woodwork first.
And now he's paying it forward, sharing his skills with others through workshops.
This started because people have been asking me about teaching them woodworking. They want to do some DIY projects in their house. I could facilitate them at my workshop, but I rented a space, I rented a venue and keep a little workshop. 2 sessions per day, 12 press per session. They come there 3 hours to build a project and they leave with a project which they can brag about. So that's my first step in teaching woodworking. The majority adults and majority females.
What sets Onari apart is his unique ability to blend woodworking with his background in electrical engineering, creating pieces that are both innovative and functional.
So I study electrical engineering at UTech, so I like to infuse the electrical engineering with the woodworking together. So I made some buzzers for some people a few months ago, but I like to incorporate lights in my woodworking.
When asked about his advice to others, Onari keeps it simple and encouraging.
I just say, just start it, just do it. You don't know where it will go in the future, just start it. There are going to be some hurdles, but you just need to know that in the future it will be worth it, and just start.
And as for his own journey, it's one he plans to cherish forever.
I'll say this journey has been enjoyable. There has been some setbacks, but I just view them as lessons, and I like to tell my grandkids all the journey I faced.
From humble beginnings to a thriving business, Onari is crafting more than products, he's crafting a legacy.
We're at the end of today's show, but be sure to join us again tomorrow for another lineup geared towards providing you with information on the government's policies and initiatives for building a better Jamaica. Visit our website, jis.gov.jm, or connect with us on social media. On behalf of all of us here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.